Thank you, sir.
Andrew, thank you for having me.
Thank you. So as I said, there is a lot to talk about. A lot of news has been made over the past year when it comes to your family and your family's empire and its sale to Disney, and the future of what new Fox ultimately looks like, and of course, some of the big political questions that we're all grappling with these days. But I want to start with this, and just take us inside the family. Take us inside Rupert and James, and you're sitting, I don't know where, and how was the discussion? How did it come about that you decided, you know what, this thing that your father had been building for so many years, we're going to sell it to Disney?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's really a pleasure. Sitting here today, having sold not all the company, but about 2/3 of our business to Disney, is a situation that I think we never believed or never dreamed we would be in some years ago. Because ultimately we're builders of businesses. We're not short-term or medium-term investors in businesses, but we're builders of businesses, and we deeply care about those businesses, those brands, and also obviously our employees and our colleagues within those businesses. And so the journey to sell such a large part of the business to Disney was one that took some time, and took some time for us to really think about where the industry is going, what the challenges we saw on the horizon, particularly for the entertainment part of the business, but also about where those assets could sit that would actually make them more viable and stronger than they were just with us. And so probably, say 18 months ago, we got a first phone call from a phone company who was interested. Our stock was certainly undervalued. You could see that on every spreadsheet of every media company. I think it's been reported that it was Verizon.
So Verizon calls you.
Verizon calls us and says they'd be interested in an acquisition. But this was in the midst of the Time Warner sale to AT&T. And when we thought about AT&T owning Time Warner, we didn't think Time Warner would be a better run media company. They're a very well run media company, but they weren't necessarily going to be better. They weren't going to be making better creative decisions, putting better shows on air because they were owned by a phone company. And so it was easy to say we didn't understand the strategic fit with Verizon. We didn't see our assets necessarily being stronger. But then a few months later, when Bob Iger called, we did, and we had already had this in our mind, would there ever be a time when we would sell? When Bob Iger called, we immediately saw this was actually, had made a great deal of strategic sense. And so my brother and I and my father, we sat down, we went to my father's office, and we had a long conversation about it. And we could see the entertainment assets like FX, businesses like National Geographic, obviously our IP and our movie studio, movies coming out like Avatar, these fit right in Disney's wheelhouse and will create a lot more value for shareholders with Disney than they would for us.
So your dad calls you in. What was your initial reaction? And what was James's?
Well, we knew what the conversation was about, and we talk every day, and we're all very transparent and open with each other. And I think we all agreed when we saw on paper that the assets that we would sell to Disney would do incredibly well under Disney ownership.
Was there any part of you personally that thought, you know what, I may not get to run this big empire in the future?
Your first thought is shareholders, right? Your first thought is where can we get our business and our value to the point where Disney can get it within a couple of years, right? In the same time frame as Disney. And we were honest with ourselves and we said, no, we believe in these assets, we believe in their growth, but under Disney ownership, they were stronger and made more strategic sense than under our ownership. Now, of course, Disney couldn't buy the TV network. News fit well with the network, as does Fox Sports, the national sports networks. And so we realized that having a business based on live news and live sport, obviously with a lot of entertainment as well, was an excellent position standalone business.
Did you have any idea when you first sold when the deal was first consummated, if you will, with Disney, that there would be a bidding war for these assets from Comcast later? Because one of the most remarkable things that took place to the benefit of your shareholders and family was the emergence of Comcast in all of this.
Yep. So Comcast was there in the beginning when they came to us shortly after Disney. We, at the time, couldn't get our heads around the regulatory risk that Comcast brought with it to acquire all of our assets, which is certainly a higher risk, our advice was, than the Disney, any regulatory Disney risk. So Comcast was certainly there and was certainly showing that they were very interested. Of course, later when they came and bid very aggressively was,
Did you ever think that would happen?
I thought that our initial negotiation with Disney was very good. We were very pleased to sell the businesses to Disney, but that we could get a higher price if we could get a bidding war going. So we felt that there was more.
And what was it about? There was something about Comcast. It felt like you did not want to sell to Comcast. There were these messages that would be sent effectively in the newspapers where your father would have dinner with Bob Iger literally the day before the next bidding round.
I don't think that's true. We would absolutely have sold to Comcast. There was a very high regulatory risk around some of our assets. In the way it's ended up, which is Comcast, as you know, has ended up winning the bidding war to buy Sky, I think works very well. So,
are you disappointed about that?
No,
that outcome?
No, I think Brian, we're not. We don't skin in the game anymore, right? We built Sky over many years.
You have skin in the game in Disney now.
We're shares in Disney now. But I think Brian will be a great steward of Sky, and they'll do very well.
Let me ask you, now that you are one of the largest, if not the largest shareholder in Disney, for it to work for Disney and to create an OTT service and other things to actually compete against Netflix, they're going to have to spend a lot of money. This is what Barry Diller told me just a couple weeks ago down a couple blocks from here at the Economic Club about Netflix and competing with them. He said that's Netflix, ran right in front of everybody, and they have such a lead that there is nobody that's going to compete with them at that level, ever. What do you think of that?
I think you have to look at Netflix as, well, I disagree with Barry. I think, though, you have to look at Netflix as two businesses. There's distribution business, right? And you have to have scale in the distribution business. And then you obviously have the creative content generation that people are watching. More and more, and you need scale there as well. And so what we were seeing, and one of the reasons we sold to Disney, was that for us to have scale in a direct streaming service, whether it's an FX direct streaming service or you could bundle some of our channels together with an on-demand service, you could get to, and I think your guest before said you can get to 2 or 3 million subscribers, like CBS All Access, right? But then you get capped. You need to have the scale of 20, 22, 30, 50 million subscribers to really have enough significant scale to make that a real business. And what Disney's buying, obviously, is a third of Hulu that we already own. So they want to have control of Hulu, 60%.
What do you think happens to Hulu, by the way?
Hulu's doing incredibly well. So the video-on-demand service is doing very well. But more importantly, the streaming service, the Hulu TV, is doing incredibly well.
Do you think that ultimately Disney buys out? I mean, that was always what seemed like a chess piece potentially in this whole grand dance, right? Or this grand game.
Yep.
What do you think happens to that chess piece? Meaning, does Comcast get bought out? Does Time Warner and AT&T now get bought out? Do they try to muck up the gears here? What happens?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them, but I do know that they both value that asset very highly. Hulu is doing extremely well, both in the direct competition to Netflix and the video-on-demand service, but also in the streaming service.
But if you were sitting with Bob Iger right now, you'd tell him to do what about Hulu and his partners?
I would tell him to
strategically.
Well, the reason we believed our assets fit with Disney was because they basically bought our scale and distribution, not just in Hulu, had potentially in Sky, which they didn't end up doing, but also in Star TV. So they bought our international distribution businesses, plus they added our content creation businesses in FX and the TV studio and the movie studio to give them scale creatively.
Okay, so let's talk about the new Fox. You're going to get a lot of cash, and I know you're not a caretaker. So, and you say you like to build things. What are you going to build with it?
So let me tell you a little bit about New Fox, because New Fox is obviously the strategic foundation of New Fox today. It's an American company. It doesn't have any international businesses, at least to start. Obviously, from day one, it's very strong in live news and live sport. Last week, during the Major League Baseball World Series, but also we're in a heavy news cycle, we had 50% of the audience in primetime, the live audience in the country. The Thursday of the Kavanaugh hearings, which we had Thursday Night Football plus the Kavanaugh hearings, we had 74% of live viewers in the country were watching live content on our platforms. So very strong in live. Having said that, we have 4 nights a week on our network. We still have to program with entertainment. So we will still be investing, aggressively in entertainment programming as well.
But do you plan to buy other things? And there's obviously speculation you might even go buy some of the regional sports networks
Sure.
out there.
So we will buy other things. Whether or not we buy the regional sports networks back, the regional sport networks are a business we sold to Disney. Whether we buy them back is an open question.
But you'd like them if you could.
We think they're very good businesses. We're a smaller company now, so there's an opportunity cost for us to buy a business that large with that growth profile at the moment.
So relative to that, there will be...
But your fundamental question, we will be acquisitive, and we intend to grow the business aggressively.
Give us an idea. What's the kind of thing you'd want to see New Fox look like in terms of other...
Yeah, so you have to think about what are the businesses that will add to our profile? What are the businesses that will add leverage with distributors? We could easily tomorrow go and buy a cable network, right? An entertainment cable network, and there's
or you could buy a Vice.
And you could perhaps. But what are the businesses that actually give you sort of more leverage and more strength with your bouquet of channels and not less? So with retransmission for our television stations, obviously heavy investment in sport, which is so important, and with news, we are must have channels for our distributors. And what you don't want to do is use that leverage in businesses that are not must have.
Speak to this. There's always been speculation about whether New Fox would ultimately buy News Corp, the newspaper piece of your business. Does that make sense? I know there's always been tax issues and questions about that.
Look, I think today I can't see and I've only thought about it because other people, externally have said, "Oh, is this something we'd ever do?" I don't see the industrial logic for that today. The news business is a tremendous business. Fundamentally, obviously, huge assets in print journalism, newspapers, also in Australian pay television. Right. Also, obviously, and most importantly, the fastest growing in digital real estate assets. And so it's a great business. How it fits with fundamentally a U.S.
Is that a business you ever want to run personally?
The news business?
Yeah.
No, I'm highly involved in it, but it's not. I've got a day job with Fox.
And do you think that your father would ever sell the Wall Street Journal? It's always a perennial.
I never thought we'd sell, the TV studio or the film studio. So who knows? He loves journalism. He loves the Wall Street Journal and what it represents. So we're very happy with it.
One other family-related question, which is that it feels like James is going to be part of the future of this, but is going to be working on other things. Let's just say. How does he feel about all of this, and how do you feel about all of this?
I can tell you how I feel.
Because I know originally there was an ambition or intent that he was going to be part of the Disney program.
Yep. Well, you should ask James, but I can tell you how I feel about it, and that's James has been an incredible partner of mine in building this business. I've only been back in the business as an executive the last few years, but he's been an incredible partner. He deserves a huge amount of the credit for building assets like Sky. He's been chairman of Sky for a long time. So when he, as part of this, for all of us, this transaction, and again, it's something we hadn't imagined we would do, it provides sort of a cathartic moment for all of us. And James has gone through that and decided that he would like to use this moment to go out and do something on his own, which I think is going to be very exciting, and he'll be very successful at it.
I don't know if you had conversations with him about this. Speculation has been that he may become the chairman. He's on the board now we were talking about Elon Musk earlier today, of Tesla. What can you tell us?
Nothing.
Nothing? What do you know? Does he want to do it?
You should ask James or Elon. So.
We are going to have to get them up here soon. We will have to get them up here soon. Let me ask you this, because as I said when you sat down, there's a lot of questions about the political discourse right now. And Fox News has come under question, criticism, fire, all sorts of things. When you think about the future of Fox News, but also New Fox, is this supposed to be a red state media organization? I mean, do you think about it like that? No.
I think about it as an all-state media organization, right? So, we have to program, and by the way, you're talking about Fox News, but, the television network, the TV stations, Fox Sports, non-political, unpolitical media businesses, we program to everyone, right? So it's to the coast, it's to California and New York, but also everywhere in between.
But let me ask you this then, and this is where it gets complicated for the business. Because of the criticism, and there is a lot of it, I want to talk about false flags and all sorts of other things, there are people in the business who I imagine you would want to do business with, who don't want to do business with you. This is the co-creator of Modern Family, Steve Levitan, who you produced Modern Family for all these years. He goes and says the following, and this is about you. I sincerely hope Lachlan Murdoch recognizes the damage this is doing, it's about the network, and finally brings sound journalistic ethics and standards to his network before more unhinged people are riled up to send bombs and shoot up churches and synagogues. I'm not going to do anything for the Fox network ever again as long as Fox News remains such a destructive voice in our society. When you hear that, you think what?
I know Steve pretty well. I think he's a genius. He's certainly a genius storyteller, and what makes Steve so good is that he has a huge amount of empathy. You know, people who tell stories, and you're a writer, right? People who tell stories, they have empathy, and they channel the empathy from people around them, right? And so what Steve is doing, and I completely understand this, and I accept his opinion on this. He feels that, like, frankly, the anger and the intolerance of opinions that we're seeing across all of our community today in America, and so when I hear that or read it on Twitter or wherever he wrote that, I completely understand where that's coming from. Now, having said that, you have to look at our platforms, right? We have, whether it's people who look at Fox News, and frankly, our biggest critics of Fox News are not watching Fox News, right?
Well,
they're picking up pieces from Twitter and social media and elsewhere. But you have to look at, the Wall Street Journal. You have to look at the Times of London or the Australian.
But I would say there's a distinction between what the Wall Street Journal op-ed page does and what you see on Fox News. And when I mentioned false flags before, or the conspiracy theories, the idea of trafficking in some of these ideas, even last week, I don't know if Ed Stack is still here from Pittsburgh, some of these ideas, I mean, when you see that stuff, are you proud of that?
So let me pick up a couple of points that you made. So if you look at Fox News today, right, and I think this would surprise most people, again, critics who frankly aren't watching. If you look across an average day, if we cume our opinion, right, our opinion time slots, right, 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night, and I'll even throw in breakfast, right, Fox and Friends in the morning. It's about 14 million viewers cuming that time period up. In our news hours, and you can't, Chris Wallace, Shepard Smith, Martha McCallum.
I know, I appreciate that.
In our news hours, 22 million viewers in those news hours. So far more people watching the news hours than the opinion hours. And so and then to go to your point, when I think it was on Lou Dobbs, right? There was a guest on Lou Dobbs that said something the other day. The guest was immediately banned from coming back on, and Fox News apologized immediately.
But were you upset about that personally?
You wouldn't ban him and apologize if you didn't think it was a mistake.
Okay, let me ask you.
So news organizations, all news organizations, right? Particularly ones that are 24/7. When they get something wrong, they have a responsibility, an absolute responsibility to correct it and to apologize for it when they need to.
How do you feel about the fact that President Trump likes your network so much?
Yeah.
And I say it because as a journalist, I want people to respect the news that I'm providing. I want them to need the news that I'm providing. But I'm not sure I always want them to like it as effusively as the president seems to when it comes to Fox News.
I think he dislikes us less than everyone else. If you look at Shepard, if you look at Shepard Smith, if you look at Chris Wallace, if you look at Geraldo was on Fox and Friends this morning criticizing the president. There is a huge number of hours a day, guest contributors that do not agree with President
Fox is
Trump.
contributing to any of this. And the reason I ask is you look at the truck of the fellow who was sending out bombs to prominent Democrats last week, and there are pictures of Trump everywhere. There's a big sticker that says CNN sucks right on it, which almost felt like it was out of a Fox show. I mean, is there any of that you say to yourself, you know what, that part I'm not proud of?
I don't take responsibility for a criminal who was a criminal before Fox News even started, right? In the case that you're mentioning, and so I think it's unfair to make that criticism of me or Fox News or of any other media organization. So, but what I can say is that when we make mistakes, and all news organizations do make mistakes, it's our responsibility, as it is everyone's, to correct them and to apologize for them.
Let me ask you, though, related to the image, though, of the closeness between Fox and the administration. Obviously, you just hired Hope Hicks. I'd love to understand that decision, choice, and even thinking about the optics of that. Bill Shine, by the way, who used to work with you, then went to the White House. And that at the minimum, it creates an optics issue. Do you think about that?
Let me explain. We didn't have anything to do with Bill Shine. Bill Shine left Fox News and was gone for a while before he went to the White House. In terms of Hope, we have an incredible opportunity in that with New Fox, what we're doing is we're bringing these companies in that are established, profitable businesses with very strong brands. Fox News, Fox Sports, the network. And that business will make about $2.5 billion EBITDA in its first year. But what we're able to do, because this is a new company, is put a completely new management structure in place above that. And it's really a once, it sounds like a cliche, it is a cliche, a once in a lifetime opportunity to create this entirely new management structure to lead the company going forward. So what we've done is we've said, well, how do we hire? We do see this as and there's an end point. There's January or February when the new company comes out, everything's got to be in place and you've got to hit the ground running. So how do we hire the absolute best executives into those roles? How do we hire? So we hired Charlie Collier from AMC, fantastic executive to run the TV network. We obviously promoted some months ago Suzanne Scott to run Fox News, Eric Shanks to run Fox Sports, and Hope Hicks, when we found out she was looking for her next job, said this is an incredible executive with incredible experience who frankly will do a tremendous job. But no connection to the White House, no.
Reports that Jared Kushner and others had talked to your father?
Talked to me, 100% false, 100% false.
Okay, I'm glad that we set the record straight on that. Let me ask you a couple other quick questions.
Oh, by the way, I should just mention, when we did do our due diligence on Hope, because it's something you go out and you interview someone, then you check their references, and you also call around someone in that role in public relations. I had an advisor of mine call people she would have worked with, and universally, and I should mention that many people from the New York Times universally said she was a fantastic choice.
Okay. Politics inside your family. Do you consider yourself a conservative or Republican? What are your own politics? And also, I want to know about the conversations you have with James, because I think there's a perception that he may be on the other side of you.
Yeah. So look, I consider myself. I'd say I'm conservative, probably economically on the economic sort of policy. I'm more liberal on social policy, and so I don't fit neatly into a left-right Republican Democrat bucket, right? And so, which I think is frankly important. I think you need to be, if you're particularly running media organizations, you need to be an independent thinker. What I do find is that when people tell me to think a certain way, or that I should think a certain way, I'm more inclined to think a different way, or certainly examine why are they telling me that.
Because I think James is on the other side. Do you guys ever talk about what's on Fox News?
No, occasionally, and James is, to his credit, he's incredibly strong on and gives a lot of money to environmental causes, and so. But we are, I think we run a business with lots of different opinions on different sides in our business, and we are a family with lots of. Okay,
a couple quick ones, and then we're going to open it up. Megyn Kelly, should she come back? Will she come back to Fox? And what did you think of this whole situation?
Look, I'm a big fan of Megyn's. I like her a lot. We didn't want her to leave Fox when she did. Having said that, I'm very happy with our current lineup on Fox, and we won't be making any changes there.
Is she damaged because of this whole experience?
Sure, I think I think she is.
Do you think that she can go back into media after this?
No, I hope she does because she's very talented.
Final question from me, and then we'll open it up. Do you watch Succession?
No, I don't, but I'm too busy watching Billions. So
Good answer.
Good, yeah, so.
Good answer. Lachlan Murdoch, everybody. Let's get the lights up. Let's get the lights up and take a couple quick ones. And I know everyone's got to go to lunch. I see Rich Greenfield here in the front, and he's got his hand up. I knew you would, so we'll go here first.
Thanks, Andrew. Lachlan.
Hi, Rich.
There was a perception, I think, going back to the day you announced the Disney deal, that the new Fox would be really focused on news and sports, and that you would really kind of shift away from entertainment programming. But just last week, you announced a pretty big hire that I think surprised probably a lot of people in this room, that Charlie Collier from AMC is moving over to work for new Fox. Is there going to be kind of a robust focus on entertainment programming? Because I assume he's coming there to do things like Walking Dead for the Fox network.
Thank you very much, Rich. So absolutely, we see a strength and a strategic sort of narrative, in New Fox around live programming. I mentioned, last week, 50% of the live, certainly primetime live viewing was on Fox. Having said that, if you look at, and this goes to a little bit of a historical question, one of the reasons we did the deal, and Rich, you know this very well, the amount of entertainment programming that's watched live is declining at an incredible rate, right? An incredible rate. And so, but what we can do is we can invest in the NFL, we can invest in baseball, we'll have WWE on the network next year, really so we can use those to promote our entertainment programming as well. So the way I look at it is you've got a tent pole with the best live news programming in the country. You have a tent pole with the best broadcast sports in the company, and how do you lift up the entertainment to do that? And we've done it this year already with Last Man Standing on Friday nights, where we've been able to promote heavily Thursday night into Friday with Last Man Standing, and Last Man Standing is rating about 80% better on Fox than it did on ABC.
Okay, final question, because I know we all have to run to lunch, and I'm going to run out of time. Ken Aletta, of course, from The New Yorker.
Hi, Ken.
You mentioned that you were a social liberal, or to the left on social issues. You also extol the word empathy. Yet if you watch the primetime programming on Fox News, it's the opposite of that. Empathy is not championed, and they're socially very conservative. Do you plan to make any changes in that, since you have strong views on these things?
Look, I do have strong views on these things, and I think, Ken, and you know this because you know our companies very well. I've run newspapers since I was 21 or 22 years old. I don't, and it's a practice I've had. I know it's a standard practice. It should be if it isn't, but I think it is a standard practice in almost every newsroom, certainly in the Western world. I don't tell journalists what to say or what to write. That's not my role. What I do running a media organization is obviously work closely with the managers of those newsrooms and with the managers of those newspapers, and it's important that they get the positioning and the messaging right. We don't always get it right. And we have to call ourselves out on that when we make a mistake.
I understand that you don't tell them what to do, but are you embarrassed by what they do?
No, I'm not embarrassed by what they do at all. You have to understand that Fox News is the only mass media company in America, in this country, with conservative opinion, with strong conservative opinion in prime time. It's the only one, right? It's not one of a few, it's the only one. And I frankly feel in this country, we all have to be more tolerant of each other's views. And that goes for everyone in this room, everyone in this country, everyone on both coasts and in the middle. And that's the problem, we've come to this point where we are more and more intolerant of each other, and frankly, that just has to change. Thank you for the question.
Lachlan Murdoch, thank you for your candor, for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.